I'm good, man. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I thought I'd come in and add a bit of cranberry red to the stream. So this should be interesting. Good to see Wesley McGrath as usual, and obviously meeting another Hollie as well. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Oh,
It's not.
hi.
It is nice to have you in, Albert. Like you say, we don't get along
Enjoy.
much, but you know what? We'll talk about it when you're on the show for the North London Derby preview. But because you're here, first of all, Albert, I'll come to you first. Obviously, we've spoken a little bit about Tottenham and our win at the FA Cup, which leads us on very nicely. And obviously, you heard Hollie and Wes talking about Harry Kane and the fact that he could break Jimmy Greaves' record against you. Now, with that insight, could that potentially make you feel a little bit worried? I mean, it probably won't with what you're sitting on at the moment at the top of the tree, but how does that kind of make you feel?
Nah, of course I'm not worried, man. Don't be ridiculous, man. Honestly, come on, Hollie, man. Now, listen, let's be serious, innit? Like Kane always scores against Arsenal, man. So that wouldn't even surprise me. But our defense is a little bit different than what it used to be in yesteryear. You know, I've seen some dreadful defenders at Arsenal. Yeah, I'm a bit more buoyed this season. Our away form in I think all 6 metrics we're top. We're ranked first. But I actually don't think that comes into consideration come Sunday because our away record at Tottenham is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Was it 2014, March 2014, since we beat Tottenham away in the Premier League? So Thomas Rosicky days 1-0. But listen, you know what it is, Holly. Yeah? Let me be honest. Like, I know a lot of Arsenal fans that, for example, absolutely hate Manchester United. Like, we've gone to Old Trafford in recent years thinking, you know what, we're due to give them a piping. And we still haven't done it. We still cannot go there and beat them, even though they're not at their best. So, listen, Tottenham are where they are, and the performances, you guys watch it more than I do. So, I'm sure you've been grumbling like today and probably the last few weeks. But, yeah, listen, never confident going to play Tottenham away from home. Let's be honest.
No, that's fair. Oh, sorry, I was just reading Chris's comment where he says about you on mute. It's made my day that you came in on mute.
Oh, Chris.
But no, you do make some sense out of it. I mean, you must be feeling confidence. I mean, I'll come to you, Wes. Obviously, with them at the top and us a little bit further down, it doesn't obviously size up good in our favour. But we've spoken a little bit about Juju and the fact that Harry Kane could obviously beat his record, and obviously the fact that we're at home. And I think at home we could really turn on the tides.
Yeah, firstly, big up Uncle Albert. Always nice to see you, my man. Yeah, I think, look, given the form of both sides, I know form goes out the window when it's Derby Day, that old Gale cliche, as I like to say. But yeah, I think that is probably the only thing at the moment that us Spurs fans have got to kind of hold on to, because I mean, our record in big games, you know, against the other so-called top six is not great. I mean, especially away from home, our record is horrendous. So, yeah, like I say, I think the fact that we're at home is something that we're just holding on to a little bit. The fact that we have a half-decent record against them lot at home, again, is something that we're holding on to. But, look, I think if you want to pick and handpick a manager to kind of get you up for a game like this, I think Conte is definitely in the mix for that, in terms of motivating, you know, the players and trying to get that extra sort of 10% out of them for a game like this. Yeah, I don't think I would want kind of anybody else really on the touchline come Derby Day. Probably the only other one is a manager that we did have, which was Mourinho. In terms of that one-off game kind of feeling, that big game feeling, there's certain managers that you would seriously want in your corner fighting for you. And like I said, I think Mourinho's one and Conte is probably the other one. But yeah, listen, the nerves are kicking in because it's Derby Day. It's Derby Day. You can never really work out how it's going to go. So yeah, I think it's more nervy, I think, for us Spurs fans, because they are flying and they just are grinding out results left, right, and centre. They've found that way to win ugly, which you never associate with Arsenal teams. No. You know, it's always been that kind of pretty football, easy on the eye kind of thing. But they've got that bit of grit and determination back now to kind of do everything that it takes to win a game of football. So anyway, Oxford 1, Arsenal 0 tonight. In the FA
that
Cup.
would make good stead for the North London derby.
Sorry, just record FA Cup winners. I didn't want to say it. It's 1991 since we saw in the final last. So
listen, we're the third most successful side, innit? We ain't won it for 30 years, so work that one out.
Oh no! Calm down, children.
It's all right. Sorry, Hollie. Sorry.
No, it's all right. But no, Hollie, we've spoken about obviously Pompey and the fact that we've had lots of players out, or we've had new players come in. I mean, do you think it might be a little bit of a big ask for Sarr to step straight into that game? Do you think?
Do you know what? Sometimes I've had my hopes high for players that I thought were really reliable, and they've let me down. So I don't want to say it's too much, because I feel like he could be riding a wave of the last game and actually still want to prove the point that he deserves his place. Usually we're spoilt for choice in his position, and obviously with those guys out, looking to someone that young and that fresh is quite nerve-wracking. But do you know what I say? Why not give him a chance? I know it's a big game, but I just feel like it's on Derby Day. You just never know what's in the fate of the gods. And yeah, I'm just putting all my hopes on Harry. Sorry, Harry.
It's gonna go do it. It'll be fine. But no, I think you make a valid point. I think, like you said, if he's riding on this wave of the fact he's played well for the last couple of games, he might thrive under that kind of pressure in that environment. I mean, Albert, you know your midfield better than I do. So would you say, if you had the likes of Sarr in there, I don't know how much you've watched of Sarr, but would you say, not that you'd feel worried, because I don't know if you'd feel worried with Sarr in there, but could you see a different element of Spurs if Sarr was put in that midfield against you?
Yeah, so Hollie, too, so I'll just have a little sweet taste of this drink, man. Almost good as top of the league, tell you that. But no,
get this all night now.
But Hollie, listen, I've been on your channel. I must admit, I've been on your channel before. I must admit, coming into North London derby before I ask you a question, I can just sense the trepidation in Hollie's voice, and Wes is just shifting around like I've never seen it before. The time I know this. Listen. I get it. It's you come up against the form team, so it's all right. But no, Hollie, no, I'll be honest with the players you mentioned. I've not seen too much of him. I've seen a little bit more of Gil. Listen, give the guy a chance. We've got it with Fabio Vieira. Oh, he needs to build. He needs to get a bit more fit. Listen, look at Bernardo Silva at Man City. He's not exactly built like a something house. So let's be honest. To give him a chance, but. No, I don't know how your midfield sort of squared up this season, but in terms of our midfield, listen, I would say in terms of form, we're looking at the best midfield in the country. And I don't think many people could argue with that as a quartet, as a three, or whatever way you set up. Granit Xhaka has turned into Daniela De Rossi stroke Granit Xhaka. That guy has had the biggest transformation as a footballer that I've seen for many a year, from where he was to something years ago. And it helps that Arteta's playing him in a completely different position, which actually makes me smile even more, because keep him away from the defensive side of the game completely with Granit Xhaka and he'll be fine. Thomas Partey, when you keep him fit, it's amazing what happens. His injury record at Athletic Madrid was faultless, comes to Arsenal, misses quite a few games, but he's been in a run of games and he's been absolutely tremendous. I don't get too caught up in the little debates of Casemiro, Partey. Listen, they're both exceptional players. Let's have it right. And obviously, who I'm missing out? Oh yes, Captain Ødegaard, Norwegian starlight. Listen, if Tottenham will do the homework. And if you keep him quiet, you probably might have a good chance. But he's been one thing with him that I've been impressed with, and I've been looking forward to with Martin Ødegaard I don't want him to see him putting in them brilliant, consistent performances at home. He's got to do it away from home. That's one of my biggest criticisms of someone that used to play for us, Mesut Ozil. But listen, Arsenal fans, we still moan about anything. Trust me, you've seen the socials. Listen, they moan about anything. Even we win, they moan. So it's all right. But yeah, listen, it's a different Arsenal side. And yeah, I think the midfield's always a key battle in any major big game, any derby game. But I'm confident going into this one, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's see how it manifests.
We will see. We will see. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. But Darren makes a good point, Wes. I mean, is Bentancur back for the North London derby? I don't really know, but if he is, it would be nice.
Absolutely.
Listen, we need the Uruguayan Moussa Dembele back, like ASAP Rocky. Yeah, you understand? Because our midfield, my goodness, it's been like non-existent, and it's so strange to see. Obviously, the Juventus flops, if you like, how then when they're not in our team, how bad we've been, and how kind of average we've been playing. But I'd like to know what Albert's drinking, because I think, judging by Albert's comments, the Man City midfield is now playing volleyball or something. You know, and Partey or Casemiro. Do me a favour. Like, really? Is that
that's a debate that's been flying around. I don't get caught up in that, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's only one winner in that one, I can assure you. But yeah, we need Bentancur in our midfield to, I wouldn't say stand any chance, but to have a better chance of, you know, keeping the likes of Ferrer Xhaka and whatnot quiet. You know, on Sunday. So,
keep talking.
But listen, once Xhaka gets a card, because he loves a card, you know,
it will be an interesting one. And I think, Hollie, that's the main thing as well. We need to remember it is going to be a fiery game, and there are going to be cards, I think, dished out. But it wouldn't be a North London derby without it, would it?
Absolutely. And also, I want to keep my eyes on the managers, really, because we've got two very fiery managers that love to run up and down the touchline. And it's just, hopefully they keep their calm and composure, because, you know, leading by example and all of that, whilst everyone else is going to be massively under pressure. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Conte's enthusiasm, and I'm sure Arsenal fans love Mikel Arteta's enthusiasm as well. But when you've got such a big game, you've got them both jumping up and down, running about, you know, it's they've got to keep it calm for this game especially. But I won't be keeping it calm, so I also cannot be a massive hypocrite and say that. But you got to try.
Yeah, you have. No, you do make a valid point, because Albert, didn't the other week Mikel Arteta make a bit of a, should I say, tit of himself on the sideline? Do you reckon he'll be able to keep his cool in the North London derby?
Sorry, repeat the question again, Hollie. No, joking. No, I'm not. No, listen, there was a lot made of it. I went to the game against Newcastle, and yeah, there's a certain section on Sky Sports, per paper talk with the journalists, and but Jonathan Liu made a good point actually. He said, I think it wasn't that he was kind of criticizing Arteta, because there was a few that were Mr. Keys in Dubai, and a few other people, but Hollie, the thing is, before. There's experienced managers, right? Because Jason Burt in the Telegraph basically said that is Arteta as inexperienced. I'm like, well, that's complete nonsense, because there's experienced managers more than him who absolutely lose their nut on the pitch. Klopp against Everton, when they won 1-0, they scored in the last minute, he lost his mind. Pep Guardiola the other day kicked the water bottle in the direction of the opposing dugout.
And then ran over and was like, I'm sorry.
Don't ever get me started on Conte. But even Arteta said it himself. He needs to kind of just, listen, it's not easy, but you need to rein it in. But like, sorry, Jonathan Liu made a good point saying that does transcend onto the pitch. Because a lot of the Arsenal players against Newcastle, and don't get me wrong, the referee Bobby Madley was absolutely terrible. Terrible. And I've been polite by using the word terrible, but and I get it. But you know what? Just you do have to try and keep your cool. It's not easy, and I don't think it's going to happen on Sunday, if I'm being honest. But that he does need to be mindful of that, because that does transcend onto the pitch for the players. Because you know, Newcastle, you know, they kept it tight, and Arsenal getting frustrated, and the referee. But it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure they'll just stay in their technical box and just sit down and just watch the game.
Of course, like they should be doing. No, I'm joking. I think it's good to have a bit of passion, because that also transcends to the players that they're there to do a job too. They need to be passionate to just get the job done, but there is a fine line, I feel.
Cool. Yes, very true.
The fact that I'm going to do score predictions, because why not? So, Hollie, I'll come to you first. What are you kind of feeling? It's probably a horrible question, but what's your score prediction?
Wait, were you coming to me then? Did I hear my name?
Yes.
Cool. Sorry, I was just like thinking about scores in my head, and then I was thinking, did she say me? Because I was about to stop talking. Everyone always tells me I am too unrealistic. and that I am an airhead who doesn't know what I'm talking about. And to that, I'll say, actually, I'm not going to swear because I'm a professional lady. But I'll just basically say that I do not care. If you don't believe it, then it certainly ain't going to happen. So I'm going to say. I don't want to say because I think Albert's just going to laugh. Okay, right. I'm going to say 3-1.
Wow.
Absolutely outrageous. No, I'm joking. No, you got
listen, exactly. And if there's one thing that I have been called throughout my life, it is outrageous. So there you go. At least I'm consistent. Do you know what I mean? Thanks, Darren. Okay, I will say it on my chest. I'm going to say 3-1.
Well, she did kind of pause for about.
Little drum roll and everything.
It was the time it took me to lift my fist to slam it on the table.
I love the optimism, Hollie. Never lose it, man. 3-1. I rate it. Albert, I'm coming to you last. Wes, what's your score prediction?
3-2 Tottenham.
Woo-hoo!
3-2 Tottenham. Because Harry Kane does and will do what Harry Kane does in a North London derby. And Heung-min Son, who also doesn't mind a goal against you, like, by the way, Uncle Albert, I think he might nick one, to be honest. I think he's, I wouldn't say due a run of goals, but I think, you know, when was the last, obviously scored in the one last season. Albert won't know because he left by that point. Or either switched it off. But yeah, I think Son will score. I think Son will score, but look, I think, you know, the form that Arsenal are in and the way we're defending, like I said earlier, I hope we'd show some defensive resilience, but I would think that Arsenal would score, but I'm going 3-2. Goals galore.
I love it. And Albert, last but not least.
You sure when it comes to me, Hollie?
Yeah, I'm going to put the fingers in my ears. No, I'm joking. Go on. What are you saying?
I actually think it'd be a draw.
Oh,
controversial.
Yeah. You lot will be gassed as well.
Hollie knows it, man. Listen, I don't BS, man. I reckon it'd be a draw. Listen, records are there to be broken, obviously, but yeah, it's always the role reversal. We play at home, we smash you lot and beat you lot. Away from home, we don't get the win. So, but listen. Listen, I hope I'm proved wrong so I can be smiling like a Cheshire cat and walk around Southeast London, you know, hanging around with all the other lot. But no, listen, I think it'd be a 1-1.
I rate that, considering the fact you were bigging it up all stream. But I get your reasonings, Albert. I get your reasons.
Oh, I kept level-headed enough. You know.
You have, man. You have. You've reined it in a little bit now. You're settled. You're all right.
Listen, you brought Wes on it. I didn't ask you. He came at me.
Albert's back down a little bit because he realised it's 3 against 1.
And Darren said you're not saying it with chest.
I thought I said it pretty quickly, to be honest.
You did, to be fair.
I'll say it quicker next time we play you next season. I don't know.
The only time Albert's confident is at the Emirates. He's like, boom, straight in. No,
I was there for that one. That was beautiful day that was.
Yep. Anyway, thanks for that, Albert. Cheers. Thank you. Moving on.